Next up, a keynote conversation with Terri Carmichael Jackson, moderated by Nicole Jeter West.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Well, good afternoon. I believe we are the only thing standing between you and lunch. But if there has to be a conversation between you and lunch, I would like to believe that sitting and having a conversation with Terri Carmichael Jackson is exactly where you would want to be.
Oh dear, what a setup.
We're gonna have fun. So Terri and I had a chance to chat a little bit beforehand, and I was sharing with Terri that I'd been in the industry for a little while and started my career at the Knicks. And while I was there, I would call it moonlighting, where I worked at the New York Liberty. And that was because if you worked for the Knicks or MSG, then you ultimately ended up working for the Liberty because trailblazers like Carol Blazejowski or Amy Shear, who were heading up those teams, didn't have a lot of resources and were undervalued. But at the same time, those NBA teams were losing money every year. Ooh.
She said it.
But it was the truth, right? So that was the truth. That was the reality back then. And let's fast forward to today. Let's take the same team, the New York Liberty, and I believe the last reported value that has been put out into the space publicly is $415 million. And I'm gonna say Kia's probably already up to that, if anybody knows Kia Clark, the president. All that to say, we sit here today on the precipice of a deal hopefully being signed soon, maybe.
There's no breaking news here.
I'm trying. And I also give you full right if at any point we need to break this sort of, and you want to just share something, you have your phone nearby, we can go. But we sit here today knowing that valuations continue to grow. Ticket sales are up, sponsorships are up, all of the things that are taking place across the W. The value's gone up. However, we're not necessarily...
There's no however there, but go ahead.
But we're not seeing it on the other side. We're not seeing that sort of flow through to the athletes. And so I'm interested to know from your seat today, how are you seeing that impact your athletes and the athletes you represent as far as the value that they're seeing on the other side?
Well, wow, that was a question, wasn't it? You forgot viewerships going up and merchandise and jersey sales, like just all the metrics that matter, right? So how does that impact the players, our members? In a big way, directly, or at least it should, right? I mean, the reason why they opted out, and they were very articulate with why they opted out, they knew that this business was on track. This business, when they opted out in 2018 to negotiate the current CBA, the 2020 CBA, was the reason then was to get this business on track. And so when they opted out most recently, they said, this business is on track and it's thriving and it is doing well. And not only that, it's doing well in a sustainable way. Anybody who is watching women's basketball knows, you go back down to the grassroots level and the high school level and the collegiate level, there is a pipeline of superstars headed this way towards the W. That's the sustainability that we're seeing. And so it is time, they said, that this business that they are building, the valuations that you're talking about, that broadcast deal that you're talking about, is because of their labor.
Let's talk about the numbers.
Okay, let's talk about numbers.
So I'm just going to throw out a couple.
I'm going to let you talk about numbers. Go ahead.
Let's talk expansion first. Number of teams. So everybody knows this year, who joined the league this year? The Valkyries,
Woo-hoo!
Right? We love that. But then we don't end there. The expansion continues. Next year, Toronto on board, Portland on board. And then between now and 2030, we have another 3 expansion teams, right? Detroit, Philly, Cleveland. Shout it out, come on. You got to represent your teams.
So you're saying we're going from 12 to 13 to 15 to 18.
Correct.
And if you blink, we're going to be at 20. But again, no breaking news here.
And let's just throw in next year, $2.2 billion, I believe, reported, for an 11-year media rights deal. So that's a lot of expansion. It's a lot of growth, a lot of dollars coming in, all reported in the public space. How confident are you right now on that new financial model that you like to put in place around the players getting equity and sharing in that growth in revenue in a more extreme way than where they are now? Because I think the numbers, if we kind of just throw those out there too, NBA athletes are getting somewhere between 49 and 50% of basketball-related income. NHL and NFL players are in a similar boat. WNBA players are at a 9.3.
Don't look at me. These are your numbers.
Revenue. 9.3% in revenue is the reported number. I don't need you to confirm or deny. But how does that all factor into the model that you all are proposing, which is an equity share of that revenue?
Well, the model that we're proposing, and I'm not confirming or denying your numbers.
She's not confirming or denying, everyone.
I'm under a non-disclosure agreement, and I honor that agreement. I'm glad to see there are other people in the space who are looking at the business and the numbers and doing their math, so okay. The model that we're proposing is one that is not foreign to professional sports. It is foreign to, women's sports, but it is time for women's sports to take that leap. This is what we're talking about in a transformational CBA. It is time for us to get to a point where we have positioned the workers, the laborers, our members, the players, to position them and that they are valued in this system so that we don't get in another CBA and 2 years, 3 years down the road, they are falling behind again. We can't keep doing that. We can't keep perpetuating that. We have a moment, a movement, I love your words, Grady, right now in women's sports where we can reposition this. And that's what we need to do. That's what the players are talking about. And the one thing I love about being the executive director of these players, of these members, I get to lead serve them. This is my 10th season.
I think that requires a little bit of...
You can if you want. This is my 10th season in the role, and what I love about it is they are constantly thinking about the business. They are constantly thinking about who's coming behind them. They are constantly thinking about how to make this better. And they are constantly thinking about how to be reasonable in all of this. They do such a good job. They do such a good job. And when we're done, and we'll get there, we're going to get to the finish line. You all will see what I'm talking about. They are mindful of this because what it means to be a girl in sports, what it means to be a woman in sports, you are constantly told or made to feel like your place in sport is one which you should feel grateful. That's why they're so protective of it. And they're doing a good job in these negotiations. You'll see.
So let's talk about the negotiations a little bit more.
Oh, dear.
You brought it up. I'm going to ask the questions, and you can tell me whatever you feel comfortable telling me or not. I mean, it's just you and me on the couch. But where we sit right now, state of the state, how far apart are we? Are we
Who's we?
The WNBPA and the WNBA, as far as are we talking about a couple of topics? Are we talking about millions of dollars? How far apart are we in these negotiations right now?
Well, it's a negotiation for sure. I mean, we sit on one side of the table, they sit on the other side of the table. There's lots to talk about. Each side has their priorities for sure. There are some in which we are perhaps closer than others, and there's some in which we have work to do. And so we'll do that work.
Can I get a little deeper on just the fact that it's just her and I here. But truly, it's not all about money. Some of it is about sort of benefits and quality of travel and childcare, right? So I do want to make a point of that, because for some people, Joe Public, who are out there and just maybe hearing whatever the media is sharing with them, they may go, oh, they just want more money. Can you talk a little bit about the fact that there's more at the table than just dollars?
Sure. And when the players opted out, they talked about the more, right? They talked about the family planning benefit that we were all throwing confetti over last time when we had secured that, kind of the first time in professional women's sports. We have a provision that provides dollars to reimburse players for surrogacy and freezing your eggs and like all that stuff, like what it means to be a woman and a working woman in a professional women's league. But we have, you trigger that benefit when you have 8 years of service. And for those of you who are avid fans of the W, follow the W, you know that getting to 8 years of service is kind of tough. And we knew it then, and we were really hoping to get that down, and we just couldn't. But now we see an opportunity to have that conversation revisited and make sure that what we negotiated is something that's real, right? We didn't want a benefit out there that was illusory. So that's something that we can talk about. That's something that I think we can get close to and have good dialogue, good traction, good momentum, and keep the things going. You brought up travel. I usually bring up travel, but you brought it up. So charter travel for the W is new. It was new last year, and when the commissioner announced it, she announced it as something for last year and as something for this year. But everybody knows it's not written anywhere, right? It was an announcement. You don't monitor that. You don't negotiate, an announcement. You got to get that. You got to negotiate that and get that in the contract. Mm-hmm. So we've got to get there. I think everybody has seen the benefit of charter travel, the ability for players to recover and get the sleep that they need because their bodies are their craft, right? So I'm hopeful that we're going to have good conversations there too, because again, from the team level all the way up to the league level, folks have seen what that has meant to the business and what that has meant to the product, more importantly, what that means to the players.
And some of that's just table stakes now in professional sports, period, right? Like there's just there's nobody in the NFL or NBA or MLB or let me go down the line that are like, oh, let me go see if United or Delta or whoever your preferred provider is going to let me on this flight and sit next to lots of other people while I recover. So all of those things seem to be more practical about making sure that the athletes are taken care of, mind, body, spirit.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the folks on the other side a little bit. And not specifically just the WNBA organization, but the ownership group. Because some will say it's been 29 years of losses. And if you have a business, and let's just take any business that's been operating at a loss, when money starts to come in, I need to be able to recoup my losses. I want to make sure that I'm able to take care of what all of those years of payment.
Oh, is that what they say?
I'm just saying this is what some people might say. I don't know these people, but I've heard. And so that sort of thinking and mindset that before others can get sort of the waterfall of all the revenue growth and expansion, that you need to be able to go back and recoup and repay the folks who were operating at a loss. What say you to that?
I say probably a couple things. I know we've got some retired players in the house, and so I would say to them, they probably have the same kind of argument, right? There are dollars that are flowing into this business, and they're wondering how do they recoup and recover for the hours missed and the compensation loss and the injuries and like all of that. It's interesting. The WNBA is in a really, really interesting position because it is doing well. Again, it is thriving on all fronts in all ways. And yet, every now and then you want to hear about losing money, and that, you got to be careful about that, right? Because the W truly is a winning proposition. Our ownership groups getting into the business and understanding that there's a lot of investment that they need to make because they weren't doing that for decades, that there is lost ground to be made up. Yeah, that there are practice facilities and not, I don't know, recreational centers where their athletes should be playing and training. Yeah, that needs to happen. So do they need to make up for lost ground because for some reason they held themselves back for so many years? Yeah, they do. They need to do that. They need to get in the game. They need to professionalize this sport, finally. Yeah, sure. But let's remember, the reason why we are here is the players. It doesn't happen without them. And so to say, well, we've got to recover what we lost. No, what you need to do is you need to invest. We heard ownership groups up here before, right? In soccer, they talked about the investment and the needed investment in all areas to support the product, to support the players. Yeah, why do they get it in other sports but don't seem to always get it, or at least consistently in the W? We got a concern about that. But the other thing I would say is this CBA is about looking forward. And I think the folks on the other side of the table would recognize that and would agree with that point. It is about looking forward. We're not looking to recover or make up for lost time because, again, there are retired players in the house, and they will sit you down and tell you some stories about lost time and lost compensation and injuries and all of that. We can't really do and solve all that. We've got to start looking forward. And so it's really not hard. It's really not a hard concept. For the players who are driving this business, they should have a meaningful stake. Their salary system should not be a made-up number that grows at a made-up percent. Their salary system should be based on the business and the revenue that they are driving at the team and the league level. It's really that simple.
So
it's not hard.
Let's look forward.
I love forward looking.
Some of the things that have been happening in the landscape. The WNBA is not the only game in town in professional women's sports. So we have a panel a bit later today with our friends from Unrivaled. We have folks like Athletes Unlimited. And these are groups that have stood up professional women's basketball opportunities. Some might call them complementary to the W because it allows athletes to play in those tournaments or sports leagues without having to go overseas. And maybe they're able to stay home and be able to play here. But some of the interesting things we've seen is that they've also been able to pay these athletes at rates that you could consider to be quite more than what they would be making at the W, and for less games, energy, time, effort, all of the things, and taking care of housing and all kinds of things that are sort of part of those experiences. So when you think about an Unrivaled and you think about an Athletes Unlimited and other professional sports that are showing up in the women's space, how is that helpful when you're at the negotiation table? Or how does that help frame the conversation differently? because there are other either complementary offerings or competitors in the space?
Yeah, let's clean that up real quick. It's complementary, right? It's not competitive. It's not competing with the W. They play at different times of the year. The W season will end in October. Those leagues get started, by December, January, they're kind of ramping up, and they'll end before the WNBA season even starts. Doesn't sound like competition to me. Does it sound like competition to you? No, right. But you know, you go down to Unrivaled, you go to Athletes Unlimited, and you see their experience, you see what they're doing, you see the opportunity for players, or at least our American members, like you said, to be able to stay stateside and to work and improve their game and all of that. That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, I have to pay attention to Unrivaled. Average salary is $220,000. I hope the other side of the table is paying attention to Unrivaled. I have to pay attention to Unrivaled. And not just because Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart are my bosses, but really because what they're doing is showing us like what the value is, right? It kind of pressed the reset button and showed all of us in this space how to position women athletes, how to value them, what that needs to look like. I mean, a broadcast deal in their first year?
Year one.
And in year two, they're talking about expansion. Again, it's on a different level. I get it. It's a different scale. But the fact that they are doing this and growing this means that they're taking advantage of this moment and this movement that's happening in women's sports, and we must too in the W.
I want to put a pin in that. You have received a lot of support, and I say you as the collective, the PA and all of the athletes have received a lot of support, not just from fans, and fans have showed up and shown up in big ways, but unions, labor unions,
Our people,
the government, Congress. You have had, even within your own ranks of creating the campaign, pay them what they what you owe them. There's been almost like that grassroots movement, back to what we heard earlier. How has that been helpful in, one, boosting the morale of the athletes and yourself and the team as you go into these negotiations, but also, you know, it's no small feat when, you know, Congress writes a letter and says, hey, get to the negotiation table and have a fair conversation. So I'd love for you to speak to that from the perspective of how it has impacted the athletes as well as your team, but also just in general, that kind of support from all different aspects.
Yeah, the support started with the fans, right? So I just want to take you back to Indianapolis for that All-Star game, and the players unzip their shirts and they show the world, and there is an audible gasp in the room. They show the world the "Pay Us What You Owe Us" t-shirts. Well done, very well done. What we didn't realize, what was going to happen later that had us truly gasping, was the chant from the fans: pay them, pay them, pay them. And I think that really started to show us that we thought we had the fan support. Let me be clear. We thought we had you all. We thought we had the fan support. But then just to hear that was not orchestrated. That was totally, spontaneous. Really gave rise to a campaign that we started, and we just really started to kind of put a little more formality around it, the Pay Them What You Owe Them campaign. And if my staff member, Erin Drake, is here, I want her to stand up because, stand up. I saw a hand. Erin Drake is the architect of this campaign. And so to your point, the reason why there's such a grassroots effort of our people, labor, in all these different cities who have mobilized to buy tickets and to pass out signs and to start chants and just to be present and to show up and show the players that they are there for them, that's been Aaron. The fact that the Democratic Women's Caucus reached out to us and was mobilizing to help us with this letter that they eventually sent to the commissioner and got 40 and then 50 and then 60 and then 84 and then 85 signatures on this letter. Aaron, that was just amazing parts of this campaign, and perhaps there's more, I don't know, coming, we'll see.
Well, I'm sure Erin's got more up her sleeve, so we'll all be ready. Look, you can tell just by the passion in your voice, in the energy that you give. But when you talk to others about you, which I did a little bit of, you hear advocate, you hear fierce advocate. And that there's just an undeniable sense of responsibility on your part to do all that you can to deliver for them. That's a lot, and you're going through this negotiation, which is only this much, I think, of your job, of all the things that you do. How do you find time to take a moment and reset and recharge? Because everybody in this room, in some form or fashion, is giving all of their all, being that fierce advocate, showing up, doing, but also recognizing that you're human, right? And so the humanity of all this is that these negotiations and conversations are happening about humans who play and are athletes and all those things, but they're humans. And the other side of the conversation is also humans. So I just want to take a moment to kind of bring us back to the fact that, you are known to be this fierce advocate, but how do you recharge so that you can continue to be this fierce advocate?
Well, thank you for that. I'm going to accept, whoever you talk to, I'm going to accept fierce advocate with a warm embrace. Thank you for that. I love this job, and I love these players, and this is my passion. I am so driven to deliver for them. So I pray that you all will continue to watch and follow and support what they are doing. How do I recharge? My staff's probably laughing. They're going to say, she's going to tell them that she walks. I do. I walk. Just coming out of COVID, y'all, I'm still walking. I can do a couple calls, but I try to, on a walk, but I try to walk about 6 to 8 miles every day.
You were getting your steps in at the airport.
I was.
While we were
talking, yeah. I try to get it in before the day is even started. So I get up and I'll walk at sunrise, and it clears my head. It helps me kind of put things in compartments. It kind of brings my stress level down a whole bunch. Sometimes I'll jump on a call with staff and they're like 5 minutes in, they're like, "Did you eat? Did you walk today?" I'm like, "Yeah, I must be showing them a different side, So, yeah, they know everything is good if Terri has walked and she's not a hangry little bear and she's had breakfast. So,
well,
that's
speaking of being hangry,
I know, right? Right?
They might be a little hangry. And I see my time is up. But
our time is up. But can I do one thing? Can I give a shout out? Can you just help me shout out Sportico? Because they came up with this last year, and they weren't one and done. They came back to do this year, and I wasn't sure I was going to say yes, but I'm so glad. So yes, let's shout it out for Sportico.
Shout it out to Sportico. And I do want to say this before we wrap. I think, one, you're very gracious to take time to, in the midst of a live negotiation period that is so critical, there's a lot of folks who would not take time to sit and have this conversation, so that is not wasted on me, that is not wasted on the folks who are out here today, so thank you for being so transparent and spending time with us here, and if you want to break any news, just give me a call.
I'm wearing Kelsey Plum's Under Armour mental
Breaking
health
news.
sneakers.
And you can get those. They're available. Thank you.
We'll now break for lunch and return here at 2 p.m. with the women behind the game.